Hello everyone, welcome back to Microsoft Dynamics 365 CRM training. So, as discussed, we used to write the C#.NET code in plugins. Okay, plugins will be useful for like how we used to write the JavaScript at the client side, right? For the client side front end validations. Like in the same way, for the back end validation, we used to write the plugin code. Okay, what is the plugin code? Plugin means a group of C# code which has been written, which will be written to execute the plugin. Okay, so here we have a execution to execute the pipeline. To execute the plugin, we have one execution pipeline, so which has been designed by the Microsoft, so inbuilt pipeline. So before that starting anything, so we need to understand how it will execute. See, this is the diagram, whatever you are able to see here, right? So execution, plugin execution pipeline, this is very, very important, and you need to understand the stages of the pipeline. Okay, so basically, if you see, there are like a main core operation. See, there is main core operation. Before creating the record, we used to call it as a pre. After creating the record, we used to call it as a post. For, for example, we have a contact record. Okay, contact record, contact record. If you want to perform any operation before creating the record, so here this is the creating record. Okay, in the at the stage of the main core operation, we'll create the record. Okay, main core operation will create the record. So before creating the record, we have two stages. One is stage number 10 and second stage is stage number 30. The creating record stage is stage number 30. Okay, and after creation the record, there will be a stage number 40. Basically, we have a four stages. We have four stages. One is stage number 20, 30, 40. 10, 20, 30, 40. Stage number 10 is called as a pre-validation. Stage number 20 is called as a pre-operation. Stage number 30, we used to call it as a main core platform operation. Stage number 40, we used to call it as a post operation. Like this, we have a four different types of the operation to execute your pipeline. See, before creating any record, you want to do any operation, then you will register your plugin in a pre-validation or pre-operation. If you want to register your validations, whatever the execution you want to execute, so after creating the record, you will be registering your plugin in a post operation. See, these are the four main core, these are the four operations which we can handle. But here, see, in pre-validation and pre-operation, both are same only. They both are same only. But here, see, according to the requirement, if you want to read the data or if you want to read some values and immediately you want to restrict the user to create the record, at that time, you will be using the pre-validation. Again, if you whenever you creating the record, immediately you want to create the other record and else update the value, or else you want to update the some child records or something immediately. So at that time, we will use the pre-operation. Now, main core platform operation. In main core platform operation, stage number 30, we won't register any plugin. Here, we cannot write our code and we cannot execute our code in this stage. But before and after, see here very clearly, these are the two stages before, okay, pre-operation and pre-validation, before creating the record. After creating, during creation of the record, we cannot do anything. So during the creation of the record, we consider here in the system as a stage number 30. Stage number 30, we used to call it as a main core platform operation. Main core platform operation. So here stage number 40 we can register. Now we need to understand, see, what is synchronous, what is asynchronous. So we already aware about the synchronous and asynchronous. Why we in the when we have discussed a workflows topics, right? So at that time we have discussed the real time workflows and background workflows. Okay, real time workflows will be working as a synchronous plugin, and background workflows will be working as a asynchronous plugin. Okay, so here we have a two words. What are those? One is synchronous, spelling is like this. Okay, synchronous, and second one is asynchronous. Synchronous and asynchronous. So if you register your plugin in a synchronous mode, when it will execute immediately and the user will restrict to do another activity until unless the job is not completed. If you register your plugin in a synchronous mode, this plugin will work in the background of your activity so that user can do other job also. But the changes here, the changes will not reflect immediately. But whereas coming to the synchronous plugin, it will reflect immediately. It will reflect immediately. But asynchronous, it will reflect after receive time. So here, if you see in the event execution pipeline, pre-event and see stage number 20, stage number 10, we can register only synchronous plugins. Synchronous, we can register our plugin only in a synchronous mode. We cannot register our plugin in a asynchronous mode. Why? This is the limitation. Okay. In pre-operation and pre-validation, we can register our plugin only in a synchronous mode. Synchronous mode is also called as a immediate jobs. Okay, it will so why these are synchronous? Because before creating the user restricts, immediately it will restrict the user and it will throw outside, it will throw an error, invalid exception error immediately, so that user can do other activity based on that invalid exception. For example, there is whenever a record has been already created, if the user is trying to create the duplicate record again, so if it's throw the error, the duplicate record has been detected, please change the first name last name accordingly, will create the another record like this. Something message will be appearing to the user. So such type of a validation. So if you register it in a asynchronous mode, after might be it is if it will work in a background, so your record is get created duplicate record, and after that if it throw error message also, it will be not helpful, right? So that's the reason Microsoft has been designed in a pre-operation and pre-validation. We can register our plugin only in a synchronous mode. We cannot register our plugin in a asynchronous mode. Okay, asynchronous mode. Whereas coming to the stage number 30, as I said you that here we cannot register any plugin. That is the limitation. We cannot register our plugin. Okay, in the stage number 30. In interviews, interviewer will confuse you. He will ask like these questions to you, like to confuse you. I want to register a plugin in a stage number 30. Could you please tell me the steps how to register the plugin? Like this, the interviewer will try to ask you the question, but immediately you need to say that, hey, there is a no such operations are there which we can register in the stage number 30, because see, in the plugin registration tool, whenever you will log in, you are able to see only the pre-validation or pre-operation or post-operation. You can register only stage number 10, 20, 30, 40. You cannot register your plugin in a stage number 30, or else you cannot register your plugin in a main core platform main core operation also you cannot register. So like this you need to answer. Whereas coming to the post operation, see here in the post operation, you can register your plugin in a synchronous mode and asynchronous mode. Both modes you can register. Like as per your requirement, you can here you have a flexibility to register your plugin in a synchronous mode and asynchronous mode. Again, interviewer will try to confuse you again, that he will tell that I need to register pre-validation and pre-operation job in asynchronous mode. Could you please tell the steps? Okay, you will be feeling happy that hey, he asked the question what I know, which is a very basic. No, in the basics, most of the interviewers they will ask like a very like a tricky questions. Okay, whereas coming to the some of the hard questions, those are very easy. When you think that the question is very easy, but at that time he will change, ask a different way. Okay, if it is easy, he won't ask you that question. Okay, remember one thing, he won't ask you that question. So trickily he will ask you. Okay, trickily he will ask you. It will appear that it is easy in front of you, but here that logic something, whatever he want to check that he will check. Okay, so here thing is clear. If I am not wrong, in pre-operation and pre-validation, we can register plugin only in a synchronous mode. Pre-operation will be calling it as a stage number 20. Pre-validation is also called as a stage number 10, whereas post-operation is also called as a stage number 40. And in stage number 40, we can register our plugin in a synchronous mode and asynchronous mode. Okay. So here, what is the plugin execution timeout? See, so basically there is a 2 minutes of a timeout is there. Whatever the code you will write, plugin code, it needs to be executed. It needs to be executed within 2 minutes. If exceeded more than 2 minutes, if you went, the immediately time exception error will throw. Okay, you will get the time exception error. So whatever the logic you are writing, you need to write a logic in a such a way that it should not do a long retrieval calls and those. So some straightforward logics you need to implement, and there are like some if try to avoid the if else conditions, and try to use the for each while loop, do loop, and such type of a loops will be there, right? So uh, it will stop you. It will execution time will decrease. Okay, so there is a concept called some sonar cubes, some tubes are there which will be there. So if you follow those things, it will like a from for writing the plugins from the scratch, it will be very helpful to you. So time limit, this is also one of the very important question in a plugins. So what is the time limit for execution of the plugin? So you need to say clearly that within 2 minutes you can execute you need to execute your plugin. If it's exceeded more than 2 minutes, it will whatever the logic you have written, it will exceeding more than 2 minutes, then it immediately it will throw an error. Okay, now here interviewer trying to ask you more question like a different way, that is it possible to increase the time limit? Is it possible to increase the time limit? Interviewer will ask you. So immediately you need to answer, hey, it's not possible to increase the time limit in the, so there is we don't have a control to limit. So in the online version, okay, on premise, we have a separate restrictions. So there we can increase, but in a different way. So as of now, we are discussing only about the online version. So in the online version, we are not able to increase the time limit in the plugins. Okay, it's clear. So now there is a one more concept called a infinite loop. Okay, what is infinite loop? See, basically you will write some code. Okay, you will write some code. In the code, there are like a multiple like a some logic you have written. So in that logic, it was like a round robin theory. Like a round robin means round and round, round. It was never ending logic you have written. You have written in a such a way that so the major reason for the time limit is, so whatever the logic you have written, so this is the infinite loop. Whatever the logic you have written, it will go to the infinite loop. Then this like a then your plugin will be getting a timeout error, because so whatever within this time limit you need to complete the loop. So infinite loop can occurs any type of a plugins, not just in a post update plugin. So see, because here immediate again interviewer try to ask you in a different ways, that is it that only it will come in a post operation, or else like a pre it won't get. No, if you written logic in a such a way that in a pre or post it might be wherever, if the logic is not clear and it is a round robin logic, if you have written, immediately the system will throw an error. If the for loop condition remains true, or if the programmer forgets to apply the test condition terminating statement with the for loop statement, then immediately it will throw an error. Okay, an infinite loop can occur when a plugin is set up to perform an action that causes the plugin to be triggered again and again, to leading the repeated cycles of events. So at that time, this plugin will be executed. So now, what is the what you will do to stop the plugin, to stop the infinite loop? So if someone, the interviewer will ask you, so there is a, so see, I prefer to put the code logic into the separate classes, which I organization services, I tracing services, and entity changed by the variable. So here, there like a, you can use the you can use some if context data greater than the depth data, if context data depth and ampersand GT one is there, right? So here, like this code, if the context depth is greater than 1, if a plugin is triggered from a record being saved, then the context depth equals to 1. It has been run once. If the plugin called itself again, the depth would be then be incremented to the 2. So I would put the context checking code as a bad programming practice. So it's fixing the problem of the stopping the infinite loop. If you use the context dot depth equals to 1, right? So it will fix the stopping the infinite, but it is working around the plugin being triggered in the wrong time. Example, post instead of the pre. There are some case when a plugin might need to update itself, uh, but for the majority of the time, avoid during the, because of its confusing, complex, and there will be a better way. So you need to write this condition in the code. If the interviewer will ask you, you can say very clearly, I will write the this condition if context dot depth equals to 1, like this. So what is the lowest value of the depth? If someone asks you, you need to say lowest value is 1, and what is the highest value? You need to say as a 8. Okay, 8. So if someone say, how does that depth work? So when a plugin custom workflow triggers, right? So for example, if you have a plugin or custom workflow, it triggers, then the depth property is incremented by 1, 2, second time if it returned 2, the depth has a maximum value called a, there is a workflow setting that max depth property is there. So the CRM SDK stages that is set to the maximum stages 8. Okay, maximum depth of the 8 within a hour. You can adjust the settings by changing the workflow settings dot max depth via the PowerShell. But my advice is don't change this setting, because it is usually means you are trying to work around a bad practice, rather resolving the bad practice. So fix the problem, not react to the problem. Okay, fix the problem, not react to the increasing the highest value will not solve your problem. Try to implement the logic in a such a way that it should not trigger in a infinite loop. Okay, so if a plugin or a workflow hits the depth of the 8 or greater, then it will not run. I think throw an exception. So the maximum depth is not such a problem for the plugin, because if it is reaches 8, it's usually because there is a loop and it happens quickly. So you have written a logic in such a way. So you need to change your logic and you need to write the code according to your logic. Okay.